Good morning, all, and welcome to the Monday morning market review with yours truly, Ian Giffen, on this glorious morning here in the Southern Cape. We've had quite a stormy weekend, lots of rain, still quite windy, but the sun's out, and it was spring tide as well. So we've had the waves come right up on the beach, looking very impressive. But in any case, let's get back to a different kind of wave structure and look at our markets this morning and what happened last week. So it really was quite an interesting week. I'm sure you'll agree with me. And by the way, I'm not going to be, this was meant to actually be in the open group, but I want to talk some strategy stuff as well. So I'm just keeping it for you guys, the members of the Academy. Right, so let me just organize all of this. I don't need all of this stuff up. But yeah, very, very interesting week last week. It was a mixed bag. And well, let's just have a look at some of the trades. We had some really nice winners. We had some unexpected losers, not that expectations should ever come into it. My current version of the overlay made 1.3% last week, which I was quite pleased with. And our core strategies made money as well. So, but not an easy week, not an easy week at all. You needed to make sure that you got in on all the right trades. And I think if you did, you'd find yourself this morning as well looking at quite a nice unrealized profit. There's still a way to go to many of our targets. All right. Any case, starting as always with the Euro USD. Something we've been looking for a while is to see whether this was resistance, now support level, was going to be respected. We saw it being tested 2 weeks ago, this being the weekly chart, of course, and then last week having that candle isolate the preceding week's low without any close inside of our channel. So a great example of how the HTC channel can be useful. Likewise, this is also a valid W pattern, as you can see, because our C close is not inside the preceding price territory by definition, if it's going to be outside of the channel as well. And we all know what that means for our daily impulse setup. So for those people who are quite aggressive and sort of looking at the potential breakdown in cyclicity on this, the lower time frame on daily, you might have gone with one of the preceding impulse candles here, but strictly according to the rules, we're only really supposed to start looking for that this week. If today closes an impulse candle, it would be a perfect setup. That doesn't mean it's going to be a winning trade, but it would be a perfect setup just after the pullback that we had on Friday with that low test. This is really is picture perfect. I'm sure many of you will agree with me. We're also seeing, of course, the breakout of the trend line. And so far that was resistance, now support being respected. Certainly being respected if it hasn't come back any further. And if today carries on in a bullish direction. It's very early still. It's just past 9 a.m. here, Central African time. So long way to go. There's no prediction involved in any of these statements of mine. Okay, so that's Euro USD. Of course, if we do get a bullish impulse candle, that would also mean that we could drop down, if it's a valid pattern, once we get out of these channels, and once we get a valid W pattern, we can start looking at the lower time frames. However, at this stage, it's still a little bit early. But of course, if this does turn into a bullish trend on this time frame, then without a shadow of a doubt, we could start looking to trade H4 impulse as well. But let's look at some of the other pairs for that. All right, so Gbp USD, this is obviously one of the instruments, it's got a weekly again, where we are very much in a nice bullish wave. It's established now, a trend, I beg your pardon. We're in an impulse wave of that trend. It's an established trend. We saw the preceding breakout almost 2 months ago. In fact, over 2 months ago, if you go back to this candle with a bit of messing around in between. But once again, you'll notice that candle 2 weeks ago actually respected this as a support level. And last week we had that nice bullish impulse candle. So for the daily impulse, I think that many of the trades that people were looking at, you would have been in from some time ago. And we had a couple. We had one getting stopped out here almost at break even, but not quite. That's like 3 weeks ago already. Since we've been looking again, some of you already got into a daily impulse earlier on. I think you got in, where we're looking, maybe the week before last already. But obviously, this is looking very promising for us as well in terms of this being a nice continuation on the daily impulse. Gene, I know that you've been in a trade, a daily impulse in this for a while. I have to just double check which candle you got in on. But that should be moving nicely towards your take profit now. Of course, the other thing with this is now that on this time frame, we have reason to believe that we are into the next impulse wave of a bullish trend. You could look on the lower time frame for an H4 impulse trade. So we're into the new week. Keep a lookout for the next pullback. Potentially go for that. Some of you might have actually taken this as in your entry for this morning already. What's that? Yeah, that's the midnight to 4 a.m. candle here on Gpusd. Okay, so dollar yen on the weekly time frame, we're still inside of the channel. We actually had a winning, looking this still without testing on the overlay strategy. We actually closed this out at the start of last week, or would have closed this out using our current rules that we're testing for the overlay for just under 0.5% win. So, and that's on a weekly. So we're testing this on weekly and daily. In fact, we're testing it on the lower time frames as well. All right, so dollar yen on the daily time frame. For those of you who are looking to trade this, of course, being outside of the 4-wave historical Donchian channel, as well as being a valid W pattern, that inside bar last week Thursday would have been sort of permission, I guess, for you to go for an H4 impulse. And just having a look at this, would have trailed the stop on Friday 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to below that low. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, we almost at break even on this. It got pretty close to our take profit, but not yet. In any case, we should, we're just assuming that this stays as a higher close in the next while, so that we actually get this 4-hour candle closing as a higher close. We'll be able to move this at the end of this 4-hour candle to a break-even trade. And yeah, if that hits the take profit, it'll be another nice win on the H4. So haven't had one for a while because of that pullback that we saw, a strong pullback on daily. The sort of thing that really makes you think that this trend may well be over, and it may well. You know, we may well see a breakdown in cyclicity over here. Quite a long way to get a bullish impulse wave on the daily time frame on USD JPY, but who cares? You know, this is an intact trend at this point, and we've been able to get long on this on the lower time frame. So just going back to that previous one, I think this was about a 3.5 to 1. Gene, this was actually your trade as well. We had, I think you had a 3.3 to 1 initial reward to risk on that. So that was a good trade. Very, very nice trade indeed. Okay, so moving on. Don't have all day to spend on these pairs. Dollar Swiss on weekly, also again testing overlay. We had a full winner on this. Would have closed that out certainly with our current testing on that. On the daily time frame, however, we've actually had a close back inside of the channel. It's not a valid W pattern, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, we've got enough pairs to trade at the moment. I'm sure you'll agree with me. So let's go on to dollar CAD. Another one where we actually had a breakdown in sequentiality of cyclicity on weekly. I think we discussed this. This was actually a loser for an overlay, a small loser, probably about 0.2%. So yeah, that one was not successful. Then, however, on the daily time frame, we've had a couple of winning overlays here. Had a small loser there. We had about 0.45% winner. A couple of weeks ago, and then last week we saw also about 0.6, I think 0.6%. So that closing out in the early part of last week. But that's all done and dusted for the moment. We are going to get into these rules for the overlay. I'm sure you want to know more detail about them, but I don't want to. I prefer to actually show you something that's been a bit more rigorously tested. But in any case, we may well bend those rules if you guys are keen. All right, so Aussie, similar picture. Obviously, there's a lot of correlation here with the US dollar. It's actually the US dollar that's causing this movement. We are outside of our channel. It respected that support level over the last couple of weeks. Certainly now I have reason to believe that we are into the next, we are into the next potential impulse wave of this trend, and it's been going on for some time. So here on the daily time frame, we also had a breakdown in cyclicity with non-impulse, or phase two, because it failed to make a lower close. That gave us a setup for an overlay which hit a full winner. But yeah, we're still on this time frame waiting for this to potentially break out of that channel. If you guys are going straight with a without waiting for the pullback on the daily impulse, then possibly today, but obviously Friday's candle was not an impulse candle for the daily impulse. So I'd recommend waiting for a pullback and going after that. Okay, so that's Aussie. Kiwi weekly, we've spoken about this similar picture, but not quite as much strength. So you see we've had weakness showing itself, not quite respecting that support level. Any case, still outside of that channel. So given that, we've had setups for potential setup on the high time frame for daily impulse, and some of those have been taken. I'm just trying to remember after my discussions with some of you guys. I think this was one, or that was certainly one that was taken by some of you. In which case, that was stopped out. Unfortunately, on Friday, we had it come down. But what we had then as well, with that breakdown of cyclicity on the daily time frame, with our point or potential X, which is actually A, intersecting, and C intersecting with the top of our channel, we shorted this on an overlay open of Friday, and it actually went straight to I beg your pardon, I'm talking nonsense. We actually took this on Thursday, and on Friday it went straight to about a 0.85% win. But yeah, this is we're going to see a couple of interesting cases here today, and I'm going to expand this probably in more training later this week, because it really gives some perfect examples of how the overlay and core strategies work together. But that's not the best example. Let's move on to our yen crosses. Here we actually had a loser last week on an overlay. So also testing some of these parameters. It does look like we may well get a breakout today, but there hasn't been a breakout from our channel up until now. And that's what the daily time frame looks like. So very strong bullish momentum at the open of the week. But we need to see what actually happens through the course of today before we can say anything else. Yeah, so this was another overlay. This was actually a loser for, I think, about it was just under 0.4%, lost last week on an overlay. Overall, there were quite a few overlays last week. Overall, we've made 1.3% profit, I think I mentioned. All right, so nothing doing at the moment. There's no valid W here. Let's see what happens at close of today. Right, the Gbp strength showing itself as always. Here we have that weekly time frame. Been outside of the channel now for going on a month. It's still the same long extended bullish impulse wave on weekly. Dropping down here to daily, we got into another daily impulse. When was that? So the open of the 5th. Opened the trade. Our 2-5 step kept us out of trouble with a slight pullback. We're now at break even. Obviously, we've had 3 higher closes already. So certainly by Friday, in fact, even close of play on Thursday, you would have trailed the stop to break even. looking very nice for those of you who are in it. Hopefully, we will see it take profit in the next couple of days on the daily impulse. Likewise, of course, there's been nice setups here for our H4 impulse, and on Friday, late Friday, it went straight to our take profit on H4 impulse on this one. So some really nice trades over here. Having said that, that was after a loser. Okay, so we had an H4 impulse here earlier in last week, which got stopped out with that candle. But the very following candle was actually a valid setup to go long again after a pullback. And a lot of people get quite nervous after they just had a losing trade. And this was, almost a full loser. It was about 0.85% loss there. But here you see it. You go long again. This was about 2.3 on initial risk. So you lose 0.8, you make 2.3, you're up 1.5 or 1.4 at least on that one. So just looking at 50-50 again here on an H4 impulse, one loser, one winner, and you will have 1% in profit on that. So it's been quite interesting along the way. This has been a long extended bullish trend with some breakdown and cyclicity along the way, and then resumptions, breakdown, resumption. So it's been interesting times. All right, so moving on again. Here we have the Swiss yen. Completely different picture, obviously. We had an overlay which would have actually been stopped out this morning. So that hasn't worked out on that overlay. We'll talk about why that was actually a good setup for an overlay when we get there. But seeing again, with we're seeing it on the dollar pairs. Here we're seeing the yen, some of the yen pairs as well. All of them testing these resistance levels. But until we actually have that breakout, nothing doing. Another loser here on an overlay. Last week got stopped out for about 0.6, I think it was. So going through all of the overlay trades until you get to the last few, like the Kiwi Swiss and Kiwi Cad, that actually those last two pairs actually brought us into profit for the week on the overlays. All right, so didn't have much going there otherwise last week. CAD yen on weekly, again, you can see we've been outside of the channel now. This is for 2 weeks already. We're into the third week. That's dropping down to daily, therefore. Where did we have? Just want to, I've actually lost track of this one. All of these pairs, lots of action. Certainly over the last 2 weeks, you should have been looking for a bullish trade. I think, oh yes, if you win a daily impulse here, this is another one that would have been stopped out last week, Tuesday, with that pullback using our 2 5-step rule. I'm just thinking where we would have had the initial entry. That certainly was a possibility. There was a possibility. Either way, if it was that one, you would have trailed to break even by that point, and it would have stopped out with that spike coming down last week, Tuesday. And we haven't had another bullish impulse candle to get long on this on a daily impulse, but today is looking promising. So yeah, as you can see, sometimes we have these, the market kicks us out of our trades, but that's built into the strategy. So that's the way it is. Actually, I just want to get back to that. Already from an inside bar here after that spike. So certainly last week we had reason to believe we were outside of our channel. We had reason to believe we're into the next impulse wave. There we go. Okay, so we did in fact have an H4 impulse on the 11th. So we entered this one at 8 a.m. on the 11th. That one was actually kicked out as well. Or was it? I'm just trying to remember what happened here. We had 3-6 rules. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, no, it wasn't. This was in fact a winner. I'm sure you'll agree with me. So using our 3-6 rule, those 3 higher closes would have kept us our stop there. We then had the pullback 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that we actually may well have just been kicked out with the tail of this. just trying to see if that was, well, 1.4, depending on how much grace you gave yourself here. It's one of those borderline cases. So maybe you got kicked out of this trade over there. I'm thinking maybe not, because I do see a little line over there, which generally indicates that we were able to move this one to break even. In which case, that would have actually that would have hit take profit this morning. So sorry, I can't be more definitive on that, but you'd have to look at your own trades. The main thing is recognizing that that was a setup last week and going for it. Very important that you take every trade. Okay, so I hope that was a winner. In any case, for you guys. Aussie Yen, similar picture. Here we have a nice, strong, established trend on the weekly time frame. So likewise, you've been looking for daily impulses here for quite some time. We got long on this one. Clearly, it would have been here. There was some overlay action here as well on the daily time frame, but for a daily impulse as well, there's definitely been plenty of opportunity to get long on daily impulses here. And these little pullbacks that we saw through the course of last week would not have kicked you out with a 2-5-step rule. So just looking at this one, where the indication is we got long on Monday morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday morning at the open. So following that, looks like we've trailed our stop to just below that low there. So not quite a break even, but clearly if today gives us another higher close, we will be trailing the stop to break even unless we hit take profit first. So Aussie Yen, that's a nice looking trade there with most of the risk eliminated already. Okay, so here's Kiwi Yen, not much happening. Let me just double check on the weekly as well. Yeah, well, I should be looking to go long on this, of course, with our daily impulses. So yeah, I don't have the updated analysis on this particular one. I just want to double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2-5-step rule. You can see how had you been long on any daily impulse here over the last couple of weeks, you should still be fine with the 2-5-step rule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So let's hope if you long on those that works out. Right, moving now on to Eurogbp. You can see that on weekly, we are still outside of our channel. Another long extended bearish wave here. There's been quite a few of those. Let me just expand this. Another overlay that didn't work out, got stopped out on Friday. However, having said that, and this is an example of how the overlay and core work together. So on the weekly time frame, as we've just seen, we are in a bearish impulse wave of a trend. So this was last week, Wednesday, giving us our bearish impulse candle to short this market for a bearish daily impulse. So that is, I'm just wondering if this is entirely correct. In any case, you would have definitely got in here on a bearish daily impulse, and then of course through the rest of the week the market languished, didn't it? So using the 2-5-step rule with your initial stop above that high, you would not have been stopped out, but because we did in fact have this resumption, that's what stopped out our overlay. So you'll notice the blues obviously moving towards the top of the blues to take profit, and the bottom of the apparently it's light salmon is the stop. You'll notice our initial stop on the bearish daily impulse was safe. Had we been stopped out on that, we would have just probably had a winner on the overlay. So you would have had a loser on the daily impulse and a winner on the overlay. Because of the breakdown and cyclicity that we experienced through the course of last week, which threatened our stop over here right through to Friday on our bearish daily impulse, the rules of the overlay were triggered and we actually were long on this. So had we been stopped out in daily impulse, it would have been a winner for the overlay. But because of the resumption, we actually got stopped out on the overlay, and we are still in a bearish daily impulse. So we don't know that this is going to be a winner, but as you can see, that's the two working in tandem to help reduce the overall portfolio risk for you. Okay, so good example of, again, that's a trade you should be in. There've been a couple of losers on GBP, Eurogbp. So here's Euro Swiss showing its usual typical messy activity. This was a winner last week for the overlay. There's obviously nothing happening here on anything else. We are also short this for an overlay on the weekly time frame. So let's see what happens there. Might need to just update that, but anyway, that's fine for now. All right. Okay, so moving on to some more interesting territory. I want us to run out of time. Another losing overlay, I do believe, on this one, Eurocad. Yeah, a bearish overlay that actually got stopped out on Friday. Nothing else really of interest for us. I'm sure you'll agree with me. So yeah, let's move on to more interesting territory. Euro Aussie, go to weekly again. On the weekly time frame, we certainly now have reason to believe that we are in a bearish impulse wave of a established bearish trend well outside of our channel, respected that resistance level very nicely. So this has been good territory for daily impulse for a while. I think we got stopped out on a daily impulse a while ago. Should be short again on this. If you'd gone straight away without waiting for the pullback, then you would have been short just where this vertical blue line is, the open of the following day. So that's on the 8th. And you'd actually already trailed your stop to just above the high last week with that little pullback. So you still be in this trade, looking very nice using the 2-5-step rule. Maybe by closer tomorrow, we'll be able to get this one to break even as well. Had you waited for the pullback, then Friday's close, 44.4 compared to the low, was a lower close. So you'd actually shorted this, not Friday's, Thursday's close. You would have shorted this on Friday's open, stop above the high as well. So you should be into this either way. No question about that. Likewise, there is obviously, we should be looking to trade this on H4 impulse as well. So certainly, if you were going to get into this on Friday, you'd have been able to start then as well. And yeah, just double check that. If you haven't got into an H4 impulse on this, then certainly you should have done so already on Friday. I don't have the analysis for it, but check it out. So Friday was the 12th, wasn't it? Actually, it doesn't look like there were any bearish. Oh, yes, there were. Okay, so bearish impulse candle here. If you were going late, obviously, if you're only trading in the mornings, you wouldn't have taken that one. But if you're waiting just for the pullback and a bearish impulse candle, it's quite late to be getting into a trade on a Friday, to be honest with you. That candle closed at 8 p.m. So second last candle of the week. If not, then you could have shorted this morning with a bearish impulse candle over here. If you're waiting for a pullback, that's fine as well. So yeah, lots of activity. As you can see, Euro NZD. Likewise, but of course, last week we had that bullish impulse candle. Not impulse candle, inside candle, beg your pardon. Still recovering from the weekend. So definitely outside of the channel, no question about that. And what do we have here? Okay, so this is an example again of the core and overlay working in tandem. This was a short on daily impulse, which ultimately got stopped out last week, Wednesday. So we trailed the stop, of course, to above that high using the 2-5-step rule. Got stopped out Wednesday, but even before that got stopped out with the bullish candle here showing a potential breakdown in bearish cyclicity, we actually got long on this for an overlay on the same day, on an open of Wednesday, which as it went to hit the stop, it actually hit the profit on an overlay. And in this case, of course, we only lost about 0.3% on the daily impulse, but it made a full percent on the overlay. So that's a nice picture perfect example that you can use in sales material, because we know it doesn't always work out so perfectly. But that is a perfect example of the core and overlay working together, where you actually, your core strategy had a loser, but you ended up being profitable across the two trades. One winner, one loser, and yet we made money across the two. Okay, so Gbp Swiss, let's just look at weekly first. Again, with these Gbp pairs, these more extended impulse waves outside of their channels. Very nice price movement, dropping down to daily. And had you not been in one already, which actually you wouldn't have been, because you would have been stopped out. Well, you'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Potentially you would have been stopped out had you already been in daily impulse without it hitting take profit. But having said that, if I remember correctly, those of you who were in on daily impulses with this had a winner beforehand, which means Friday was an impulse candle, and we are very much in an impulse wave, even though it was an inside bar in the weekly. So open of today, if you ask me, is a long, isn't it, for a daily impulse? Not missing anything. 202 pips for a standard target. Just check that out quickly. There we go. Close enough. Just to give you a picture of what that should look like. And yeah, we're on our way, aren't we? So that's Gbp Swiss. Kiwi Cad, yeah, definitely not nearly as much action over here. I think we did have, but I'm sure we would have spoken about this before, because of what we're seeing also on weekly outside of that channel. Despite the fact that we did see isolated high to isolated low to isolated high, outside of the channel across the board, all higher closes. I think I was having a chat with one of you about this being a setup to go long for a daily impulse. And had you done that, you'd still be in this 2-5-step rule. If we get another higher close today, then we'll be able to trail the stop almost to break even. So basically looking at that. But right now, using the 2-5-step rule, we had those two higher closes. So yeah, I think some of you are in a daily impulse on this. On the daily time frame, we're still in the channel. So obviously to take profit, we're looking for that breakout. But we don't mind, even if it doesn't work, because of our trade management. We're always minimizing downside. Right, Gbp Cad. This is another one where we're actually in a bearish overlay at the moment. We had a small winner on an overlay at the start of last week, and now we shorted this again. So languishing a bit. The end of today, we'll be looking to trail the stop on this one, but nothing else. We've had that breakdown of cyclicity on weekly. With that phase 2, we actually got long on this. I'm sure I've discussed this before, for an overlay, and that was about a 0.55% winner. Get my notes right. Gbp NZD, this is an overlay that did not work out on Friday. Just going to weekly quickly. Likewise here, you can see on the weekly time frame, nothing doing. We're inside of our channel, very much inside of the channel. This a couple of weeks ago was a small winner for an overlay. We've had a full winner, we've had a small winner, full winner, and a full loser now on this. In fact, that was another full winner, I beg your pardon. So we've had 4 overlays in the last while, of which we've had 3 of them win and 1 lose, so not too bad. Right, that's the pound crosses. Moving on to the others. Weekly first, testing this resistance level, not breaking through it, of course. Had a small loser on overlays a couple of weeks ago, very small loser. Here we had a winner on an overlay last week, Monday, I think it was. I beg your pardon, Tuesday to take profit. So that was decent, but otherwise, of course, it's very much inside of its channel. So no core setups there for us. Aussie Swiss weekly very familiar pattern now for across many of these pairs. So just be careful of that correlation. We spoke about this last week already, so we should already have been in a last week looking for a daily impulse. There you see it. That would have been Monday, open of Monday, because Friday gave us an impulse candle. We got long of this open Monday last week. Again, we saw that pullback through the course of last week, but our 2-5-step rule kept us safe. If we get that higher close today, we'll be pretty close to break even on this. One thing worth noting, though, is as we saw that breakdown in cyclicity over here, I'm not sure that this is entirely conforming to the rules for the overlay, because it actually did close outside the 4-wave channel. Any case, it actually was a winner. So yeah, we'll double check that. But that would be quite a nice one, of course, because if you get a winner on an overlay and then a winner on a call, well, that's just a bonus. But sometimes you're going to get a loser on an overlay and a loser on a call as well. So there's swings and roundabouts. Sorry, let's go to Aussie Cad again. I mean, almost identical, nicely outside of the channel, respecting that support level. We're now into an impulse, well, into the next wave, which is still a potential impulse wave. This one, we had the pullback last week, as looking at the high time frame, dropping down to daily. That was a setup to go long, actually, for both. What am I thinking? Actually, no, we weren't ready to go long yet for daily impulse. We are this week, looking for that. So this was in fact an overlay, and we're still in it. In fact, no, that would have been a small winner. Small winner this morning. This has already gone and hit the take profit. As you can see, that spike there, it's not a big winner. It's about, I don't know, just about 0.25%. In any case, that's that. For those of you who are aggressive, and I know some of you are, but you're picking up on how this works, with Friday's bullish candle, some of you were already looking for a daily impulse last week, in which case, after a pullback, and you got the impulse candle on Thursday, open on Friday. Okay, fair enough. Otherwise, you could certainly go long on a daily impulse through the course of this week. No question about that, but it's not ready for H4, obviously. Aussie Kiwi, these long extended waves, we haven't been interested in doing anything here at all. Although, having said that, this was a setup for an overlay, which I don't have the analysis on that here. But yes, there's a setup for an overlay there, but nothing on daily. All right. So last two, I mentioned earlier on the overlay, we had a winner on Kiwi Swiss. For an overlay, went straight full winner, went straight to the initial take profit, so that was great. If you're looking on weekly, however, we've had that bearish bar last week, but because we were into a bullish wave outside of the channel, as long as you're not going for a W pattern, because of course this closed inside the preceding price territory, but if you're just looking to be outside of the channel, then you would have been into a bullish daily impulse. So had you gone for a daily impulse here, of course, that would have been a loser on the daily impulse, would have stopped you out, but it was also a winner for the overlay. So another example of the two operating in tandem. Kiwi Cad, again, that weakness also a little bit not great anyway. And of course, last week's candle just closing inside of our channel. On New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar, on the daily time frame of the Kiwi Cad, we actually had I think this was, where we're looking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had a Monday, gave us a small loser on an overlay. We went again last week with a new setup, and that went straight to the take profit. So about 0.4% lost and 1% won in two overlays, one after the other. All right, so as before, we're going to really stick with the main 28 currency pairs. That's them. Haven't updated much on gold. It's still basically going sideways. We had just that attempted breakout before, but not particularly interested in that. And of course, in weekly, that's even more visible. For the funded accounts, certainly the evaluation accounts, which you guys are all still in, you can only trade the currency pairs at this stage. So I'm going to be focusing my analysis on that. All right, so as this is going out as a recording, please do make sure to pop any questions you may have into the comments below. And I'll do my best to get to them as soon as possible. All right, so look out for a couple of announcements this week. We've got some big things happening for you guys over the coming couple of months. So hope you're excited for that. But certainly we'll chat about that a bit later. And then later this week, I'm going to be doing some training for you guys again inside the members group. So also please do look out for the announcement. If there's anything in particular that you'd like me to cover in that training, please do drop it into the comments below. All right, guys, have a fantastic week trading. I'll talk to you later in the week. Bye for now.